honestly believe that the lack of a formal ID has significant impact on women generally, even globally. But bringing it down to Nigeria now, female farmers, and going with the World Bank estimate, we have over 1 billion people that do not have bank accounts, that do not have an official ID, and the majority of these numbers are women. 1 in 5 unbanked women say the reason why they do not have a bank account is because they do not have an ID. And also, as shown in your report, there's a persisting 18% gender gap between the men and the women in agriculture when it comes to the ownership of ID. The inception phase of our program, when we were setting up the baseline, we then discovered a major issue. We discovered that the women dairy farmers do not have bank accounts. Immediately, we realized that this was a major challenge in the program. We swung into action by working together with financial service providers. And in this context, we are working with different financial service providers like PSBs, like fintech, and some niche departments in banks. This is to enable us to provide diverse, innovative products that will get to the last mile where these people are. And they are in very, very remote areas, very hard to reach areas. But in doing this, the typical accounts that we normally open for these women are the tier 1 account, which requires the phone number. And at that time, I think we were almost optimistic that we were going to get a lot of women that have phone numbers, but we were shocked by what we discovered. We were confronted with 2 major scenarios, 2 major realities. First, we had a huge number of women that do not have phone numbers at all. Secondly, we have a significant number of women who have phone numbers, who have SIM cards, but those SIM cards are pre-registered. So even though we brought on board financial service providers to come and open the bank account for them, by the time they open this bank account and we go to the back end to regularize this bank account, we realize that the names does not tally. So we are back to ground zero. And this is what brought us into facing the reality that we will not be able to meet the financial inclusion targets if we do not sort out the issue of identification. Security is a major issue. Even infrastructure getting to these communities is a major issue. And the first thing that we did was to begin to work with independent vendors that could help us to help us with the NIN registration. But we also engaged some PSBs that were offering NIN registration as part of the offering. And with that, we were able to gradually. It's still a slow, very slow process, and that is the truth. It is about that awareness. And that is where we started our work, advocacy, sensitization. Most women that we work with do not feel a need for identification. They do not feel a need for having a bank account. They believe that having cash it's preferable than having their money in an e-wallet account or in a bank. And also, they do not even understand anything around identification. At times, also, we've seen cultural norms as a determinant of how women even view the issues of identification, typically in the northern area. And just to be able to provide more context, we work in 5 program sites, 2 in Kaduna, 1 in Kano, Plateau State, and Adamawa. And in all this, across these program sites, what we've seen is a situation where cultural norms is very, cultural norms determines a lot of things around identification and even the ownership of mobile phones. You would see a typical head of the household of a nomadic in a nomadic setting that do not want his wife to own a phone. because of certain distrust issues, certain norms, and also even identification. Most women eagerly take up the identification of their husbands, eagerly take up the identification of their sons. And even in situations where I have been on the field, even to be able to take pictures with the women, you probably see them covering their heads because they do not want to be seen at all. So how do you then penetrate these kind of areas? How do you work with this kind of people? For example, in Kano, we've seen a more sophisticated approach to the way women view anything around identification and bank accounts. But by the time you move into Kaduna and move into those areas where we work, you will see a little bit of resistance on the side of the women and more cultural norms that is far entrenched. Financial inclusion and identification are not synonymous, but identification is a major enabler of financial inclusion. I will re-echo Dr. Abba's low-hanging fruits, which is partnerships. I'm a little bit biased around partnerships because let's see identification and let's see financial inclusion as a value chain. Everyone in that, at every stage of that value chain matters a lot. Are we talking about the private sector? Are we talking about religious bodies? Are we talking about the government agencies? Are we talking about community leaders? Are we talking about even the women themselves? So I'm going to be talking gender here. Even the women themselves, even the men, the head of the households themselves. Everyone has a role to play, and at every stage, we must work collaboratively and to be able to achieve this high uptake and which we then catalyze into into that target that we have for financial inclusion. So partnership is key. Collaboration, everyone has a role to play.